And it is 6:30 p.m. on April the 6th. We will call the meeting to order, and the first item of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you all want to join me, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we will skip ahead before we do public comment and approval of the minutes. We will have the appointment of the select board chair and vice chair. We'll start with the chairperson. Do we have any nominations from the select board members?
I nominate Melanie.
I second that.
All right. Are there any other nominations? Then we will close the nominations. We'll do a roll call vote. All those in favor of electing Melanie Jewell as the select board chair. Ernie?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Melanie?
I'll abstain.
All right, so the motion is approved 4-0 with one abstention. So Madam Chair, you want to take over for the election of the vice chair?
Absolutely. I'll take a nomination for vice chair.
Ricky?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Are there any more nominations? All right, seeing none, we'll close the nomination process. Ernie?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara? Yes. 4 yeses from me. Ricky?
I'm gonna vote.
And one abstention, so 4 for 1 abstention. All right, so moving right along, we'll start right out with public comment. One of Galaxy S20 FEG 5G. Do we know who that is?
Yes, that is, I believe that's Gary Fuller. Gary, is that you?
Yeah, it is.
Hi, Gary.
Hi.
Okay, there's one other person who wanted to be part of public comment that I just let in. So we'll give her just 1 second. All right. All right. So during public comment, I did have a conversation with Andrea Moran the other day. She is Joy Burgess's mom. Joy is one of the folks whose well was affected by saltwater. And we have been attempting to remedy some of that and haven't been entirely successful, but they do have some concerns. She sent me an email. I did forward that to the rest of the board today, but I will read the email. So, and actually, I guess what I will take, let me take a motion first to open public comment. Ricky, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor? All right, 5-4-0 against. Public comment is now open. So Monday, April 5th, 2021. Email. I did forward that to the rest. What's that? So I got an email and the email says, "Hi, Melanie. My mother, Joy Burgess, lives at 38 Oakland Road, Belgrade. She is one of the residents who is affected by the unusable water due to the salt issue. She has appliances that have been affected by this issue and need to be replaced. So far, her dishwasher, fridge water supply, and freezer are no longer working. She would like to have these replaced. However, it would be a waste of money as they would probably be unusable soon due to the water issue. She is worried that her water heater is going to break and that would displace her if it lets go and floods her house. Joy is 79 and on a limited fixed income and does not have the funds to move into an apartment or purchase a home. This is causing undue stress on her life as well. I hope we can come to some type of agreement to remedy these problems. Thank you for your time, and we will attend the town meeting tomorrow, 4/6 at 6:30 p.m. We look forward to hearing to the meeting. Thank you again." So welcome, Joy, and do you go by Ally?
Okay, there. Hi.
Oh, hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. No, my name's Andrea. That's just my email address. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, well, I didn't know. So the reason that I did invite them to be part of public comment is that we know we don't have a solution in front of us right now, but we did want to get this on the select board's radar because at this point, we are in the process of negotiating an agreement with DOT as far as the building of a public water system. However, the likelihood of that public water system being completed before at least mid-2022 is unlikely. The problems that Joy's having are not going to solve themselves between now and then. In working forward with the solutions, we have yet to ascertain how we might fund situations like this, where there are appliances in the home that have been compromised and possibly are no longer usable. So I'd like to hear some board suggestions, a little bit from Andrea and Joy, and then I'd like to have us brainstorm some things and then possibly bring it back at another meeting so that we can work towards a solution that works for everyone in this interim. So Andrea, do you want the floor?
Oh, just, I emailed you what our concerns were. And I'm understanding that there won't be a solution to this. You're saying at least until mid-2022.
Not the big solution.
So I don't know how we could remedy this issue.
I don't either. I've been living with it for quite a while.
Now, Joy, we do have a couple newer members on the board. You were one of the original wells that was affected in 2011, am I correct?
You are?
And then a new well was dug.
Where?
Did you have a new well and then that well was also affected?
No,
No, so you have, okay. So you've yet to have a solution.
I think that one was down at Jean's.
who?
What was that, Rick?
I think that one was drilled down at Jean Burgess's.
Yes, my brother.
Yeah,
Right.
it was.
In fact, they drilled two other ones down there, I believe.
Yes,
Both failed.
yes.
Okay, so were you was yours affected in 2011 or has yours been a secondary effect?
What do you mean by that? I'm not sure.
Well, so in 2011, when the issue first came to light, there
Yeah.
were, I think, 5 affected wells. So, and we did attempt at that time to drill a new well, come up with some solutions. Between 2011 and 2021, there are now a little more than double that number.
Mhm.
So were you one that initially, when your water was tested, your water was okay?
And my water wasn't okay, evidently. I'm not, I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
Well, long
I-
enough.
Pardon?
So maybe you're not in the 10-year plan, but you've definitely been affected long enough.
Yes.
I think it has been more like 5 years, I think,
For what?
right? That is, this started, was it 5 years ago?
Oh, no, it's been a,
Longer than that?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm sure that, what's his name?
Correct.
Philbrick, tested our water I don't know how often he did it, but I don't know what his first name is, Philbrick.
I can't remember. He was the original well.
He's the one that does, that takes a sample and takes it in wherever he has to take it and checks it.
Okay,
That'd be Dave.
Dave Philbrook.
Yep.
Dave, yes, that's right.
Okay. So does anyone off the board have anything that they want to weigh in with this on, or do we just want to have this on our radar and be brainstorming some solutions on the sideline and then regroup?
Does the town have any insurance to cover any of this? Do we know? Has anybody checked on that? I mean, it is between us and the state. I just wonder if insurance will cover any of this.
Yeah, Rick, I checked with the MMA, golly, it's been more than a year ago now. And the MMA does offer an insurance program, but it only covers contamination that is caused by the placement of salt on roads. And the MMA said that this instance wouldn't qualify since our contamination came from the storing of salt on the ground. So unfortunately, even though we're a part of that program through the Maine Municipal Association, it doesn't cover an instance such as this. You know, the DOT did make an offer to Mrs. Burgess to buy her home at one point. So if it would be helpful, I wouldn't mind, you know, contacting the DOT and seeing what their thoughts are about replacing some of the appliances in Mrs. Burgess's home.
Sure, yeah, that sounds good.
And just, I'm sorry, Dan.
I was just gonna suggest maybe another thing we could do is, if she's worried about the water heater, we could ask Bruce or somebody to go over and actually take a look at that water heater. What kind of damage he thinks is happening in it, and see if he thinks it'll last until this water supply issue gets straightened out, rather than, you know, putting in a new water heater and then having it damaged again.
Right.
I agree.
Okay.
And the other thing, Mrs. Burgess, you know, there was an offer on the table for your home from the DOT. And
Mhm.
so, you know, I don't know if you might want to restart those discussions with them in regard to that, or if your preference is just to see if we might be able to replace just some appliances. Since the solution is on its way, it's just not going to be here quick.
Well, I presume I could, I haven't thought of it. So,
I mean,
Okay.
talk about it with them.
yeah,
Or
Okay.
you can-
We
Well,
need
I tell you
to think about this. I think this is pretty early to be, we're just discussion right now.
yes, good,
Um,
thank you.
And the other thing, just as far as the board is concerned, do recall that the voters did approve setting aside a sizable portion of money to help address issues related to this. And so, you know, if the replacement of appliances is in order, we do have some money to help address that situation.
Okay,
That sounds good.
that sounds good.
You want to keep your home.
Today, I do want to keep my home. I don't have any extra money to put in to buy a home. And I still
So-
have, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so Mrs. Burgess, I'll work with the DOT starting tomorrow, and we'll see what the options are as far as they're concerned in regards to your
Okay.
appliances.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so then what we'll do is regroup. We'll let Anthony have a conversation with our representative from DOT. One of the things that we're really trying to do is not have DOT go rogue and make any offers that the town and that has to back up, because we're agreeing to a 50-50 split. So that was one of the things that we were trying to rein in, was that, you know, we need to have a representative from the town and DOT approaching this together with folks. So we can certainly solicit their advice, but then what we want to do is come back together as a board and then invite you to the meeting. And so I will let you know, you'll have a link for that as well. And let you know when it's going to be on the agenda. Okay?
Yes. Thank you.
So you're welcome. You know, and that's one of the things I said is this is the part for that, because the stuff that isn't on our agenda and that we don't always know the severity of it because we're not in constant contact. But don't ever hesitate to reach out if you have a concern.
Thank you.
And you're always welcome at public comment. You're welcome to come hang out with us for the whole meeting, but some people don't want to.
That's very
All right.
good.
All right, is there anything else for this portion of public comment?
Do you have anything else to say?
I don't believe so.
So you'll let us know when the next meeting is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, we can let you know when the next one is that you're on.
Okay.
Totally
Right.
keep you in the loop on all of them, but
Right, no, I understand. That's what I meant.
I know, just tease them.
Okay.
All right, thank you, ladies, for coming. It was a pleasure to meet you in person, sort of.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for
Yeah.
taking the time and helping us, at least. We appreciate that.
You're so
Thank you very
welcome.
much.
We appreciate you being willing to let yourselves be heard.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So is there anything, does anyone have anything else that they would like the board to bring the board's attention to that will not be covered in this evening's agenda? Yes. Jay Smith?
Do you want to?
Hey, guys, it's me. I have a question about voting. I noticed that in the town report that it had said that future voting would all be done at the Center for All Seasons. And I know that when we originally, voted on building the new town office, we said that, one of the draws was that we would have centralized voting for everyone in town. And that's no longer the case. And my question is, how we can create a second voting place, like at the community center in North Belgrade, so that we actually have two options for those of us that live in North Belgrade, almost on the Smithfield line. It's a long drive over to the center and back. So just something, wondering if that's something that we could explore.
Something we can certainly think of, Jean. I do know that one of the problems that we've had is having enough staff, including ballot counters and representatives from all the parties be part of it. So I don't know if where it's hard enough to find staff for one location, if it's possible for us to find enough staff for two locations.
Oh, I think that honestly, I never knew that staffing was an issue on voting. But if we put out a call for that we needed staff for voting, if there was any kind of training that had to be done, that type of thing. I don't think there would be an issue finding staff to man the North Belgrade Community Center. But like I said, something to explore, food for thought.
That is definitely something we can think of. I also would want to follow the state law because I'm not sure if the town clerk has to be present for the entirety of voting. And she's only one woman. She's pretty fabulous, but I don't know if even Mary Vogel can split herself in two.
Right.
So-
I'm sure that there are other options. And it's, just looking to explore what those are. Is that something that you as a board want to do, or do you want me to kind of explore, or what would you prefer?
Off the top of my head, Jean, honestly, I don't see a workable solution for it. I think we have the mail-in voting. We did attempt when the new town office was built to have voting there. And it was not big enough, no matter how it was set up, to accommodate the amount of people. And the only.
Well, I think that's true during a presidential voting. I'm not sure that would be true just in our normal, mid-year voting. But regardless,
Yeah, the problem, Jean, though, is that you have to have a consistent place where folks go to vote.
I
So,
agree.
So we can't switch it from, this year it's going to be possibly a bigger one, so it's going to be here. So if we do look at if it's possible for us to have two locations, and we may be limited to one location due to the number of people that live in town. I'm sure that there's probably some parameters there, but certainly happy to have someone look at it and see if it's a possibility for us to have more than one location. But I won't promise you that it is.
Correct. So that's all I'm looking for, is somebody to explore, is it an option? And the assurance that somebody is actually going to look, that it could be an option, and how do we move forward? You know, what do we need to do, you know, as a community, as a town, to make that happen?
Yeah.
Well,
Can I
thank
just
you.
add to that? Can I add to that for just a minute? I just, aside from absentee voting, which is available all the time, anybody, any town resident can stop into the town office and actually vote for a period of time before the actual voting date. So if, for instance, driving to the lakes, to the center on voting day is, is a distance you don't want to cover, then for several weeks prior to the actual voting day, if you were driving by the town office during town office hours, you could stop in and vote anytime. You wouldn't have to necessarily vote by absentee ballot, but that's an option as well. Just wanted to add
Yeah,
that.
and that's, I mean, that's pretty much always been an option. I like to vote on the day of voting.
Sure.
But that's just me.
Certainly. Thank you for voting.
All right. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to bring to the board's attention during public comment? All right, seeing none, we're going to move right along to old business, which is the approval of the March 16, 2021 Select Board meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did anyone have any, that item is now open for discussion. Did anyone have any questions or concerns? All right, seeing none. Barbara, if you want, you are welcome to abstain from voting on this one because you were not part of that meeting. Okay. So Dan,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Barbara,
I'll abstain.
and myself. 4 yes, 1 abstention. Okay, next up on the new business, we have committee appointments. And first up, we have Sarah Langette, who is a member of our school board representing us and who would also like to become a member of the planning board.
Make that motion.
Second.
Right
Second.
here.
Second.
All right, Sarah, any discussion on that motion? Does anyone have any questions for Sarah?
I want to say, after reading her resume, I feel like I've done nothing in my life.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you. It's
Oh,
lovely.
Ernie.
And Sarah, I didn't know that you were a GM guru. Maybe I'll have to quiz you on some stuff since I'm a GM saleswoman.
Did you really?
Yes, I am.
Oh, that's interesting.
So may have to hit you up on some stuff I don't know yet.
I was there just briefly, you know, I was involved with the all the inventory for parts to put the cars together and how they were packaging these bins to allow for the flow of manufacturing. And I was very lucky to be in that same warehouse was attached to the assembly portion of things where they also made the chassis. So I'm not sure if you thought it was more of a selling portion of cars, no, but it was really manufacturing in the heart of Lansing, Michigan. It was an awesome job.
I was going to say, no, I didn't think, I'm in sales, but I do quiz the mechanics on a regular basis.
I see.
So if they felt like I was bringing some more to the table, they'd probably appreciate it.
I had some cool stories from that place, so we'll catch on sometime.
Awesome. All right. Is there any further discussion?
No, I'm happy to be in the board. I'm happy to serve the community.
Thank
Thank you. We appreciate it. All right, I make a motion that we approve Sarah's application.
Second.
I'll second it.
Ricky seconded it. All right, Dan, sorry, my brain's not working tonight. No further discussion, right? Dan, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
All right, did I miss anyone? I didn't. 5-4-0 against. All right,
Well, thank you very much.
thank you, Sarah. We appreciate it. All right, next up, we have the application of Ted Fontaine. Is Ted with us this evening?
Melanie, I do not see him again.
Okay, so I will make a motion then that we table Ted's application because he is a new appointment, and for those, we do ask that folks come before the board so that we can thank them.
Second,
All right, all those in favor of tabling this item? All right, 5-4-0 against. Then I seem to have misplaced my agenda. All right, next up, we have the 2021 annual appointments. I'll take a motion to open that item.
make that motion.
So second,
I'll second.
Barbara seconded. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so what I will do is I will read right down the list. If that's okay, do we want to take them independently, or is everyone okay if we read down the list and do it as a group?
Who does it go?
Okay,
So Melanie, I will point out one thing. I failed to redact Mr. Fuller's name on this list.
it was done for you on our list.
Thank you, Mary.
Might have been Nick, one of those gurus. All right, so Animal Control Officer, Tricia Davis, 1-year appointment. The assessing agent is RJ Duplessis, 1-year appointment. An agent for the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, Mary Vogel, indefinite. A motor vehicle agent, Sheila Thorne, indefinite. Deputy Clerk, Deputy Registrar, Sheila Thorne, 1 year. Civil Emergency Management Director, Edward Ketch, 1 year. Deputy Clerk Registrar, Charlene Huell, 1 year. Town Clerk, Deputy Registrar, Mary Vogel, indefinite. Freedom of Information Officer, Mary Vogel, 1 year. General Administrator, GAS Administrator, Anthony Wilson, indefinite. Assistant GA Administrator, Mary Vogel, indefinite. Historian, Nancy Mayers, 1 year. Public Information Officer, Jeremy Damron, 1 year. Tax Collector, Nicholas Poole, indefinite. Treasurer, Nicholas Poole, indefinite. And Deputy Treasurer, Mary Vogel, indefinite. I will take a motion.
So be it.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Dan, are you raising your hand to speak or to vote? Dan, please.
To speak. These are annual appointments. You can't have indefinites.
I was wondering that.
So they'd all be 1-year appointments if they're annual appointments.
Unless you separate them out, I guess.
I believe you're correct in that. It can only be 1 year.
All right, is the board's pleasure that we change the wording on that to each one is a 1-year appointment?
Yes.
I would think so. And then every year we just do the same list.
No, we do it anyway, so,
Yeah.
okay. So I won't go back and reread the list. You're welcome. But we'll change where it's indefinite. We're going to change that to 1 year. We'll take a vote on the board just to make sure that that change is palatable to everyone. Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes,
All right, 5 say let's make it 1 year. All right, the motion has been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll take a vote. Barbara,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Ernie,
yes,
5-4-0 against. Okay, next on the agenda was Carl Gartley in a discussion of the RSU 18 budget. We did request that we table that to the next meeting to make sure that we had enough time. And Mr. Gartley agreed. So item D has been tabled. Next up, we have the discussion of the March 20 town meeting election results. I'll take a motion to open that.
So be it.
Moved and seconded by Ricky. And that is now open for discussion. So Anthony, do you want to read what you prefaced it with, or?
I was just going to hit a few of the highlights if you'd like me to.
Sure.
So the turnout, the overall turnout for a town election was good. We had a 16% of our nearly 2,900 registered voters who participated. On the face of it, that's not great, but it's better than usual for a town meeting election. I think Mary said typically we have about 250 ballots cast just during the Friday election. So Mary, am I correct in that?
Yes, you are correct, Anthony.
And then, you know, just as far as the process, I can say it could not have gone any smoother. I don't think there was a single snag throughout the day. That is largely due to the leadership of our town clerk, Mary Vogel, and of our registrar, Charlene Huell. And she had also, Sheila Thorne was there working, our deputy clerk. And then we had the following volunteers. Jay Bradshaw served as our election warden. And then we had Cheryl Cook, Katie Dameron, Kelly Webster, and Christina Wilson. So they just did a fabulous job. So if you see any of those folks, you know, you should really thank them because it could not have gone any smoother. One of our election workers did suggest that perhaps on a Saturday that we have fewer election hours, which would reduce cost. I mean, from the time of 7 to 8 p.m., we saw hardly anyone. So that's just something for future consideration. And I think too, it's going to be a interesting decision and discussion for you guys to have. And you've had some of it already as to whether or not to continue with the traditional town meeting next year. I think we all feel assured that life will be a lot more normal next year than it was this year. Or if you want to continue to put everything on the secret ballot because it does yield a greater turnout and more people participating in the decisions, even though they're not engaging in that sometimes really in-depth dialogue. So those are the high points. Everything passed and most of it passed quite easily.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on the town meeting results? Look good. Thank you to everyone who had a hand in that. Okay, next up we have discussion and consideration of potential warrant articles for the June 8 election. I'll take a motion to open that item. Ricky made it. Is there a second?
Second.
Ernie.
Yep.
All right, that is open for discussion. Jean, did you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, sorry, actually, I wanted to ask about the last thing, but I'm new to this and couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. How many people did we have that actually showed up at the community center to vote, not absentee or beforehand? How many were actually there at the community center voting in person on Saturday?
So of the 459 ballots cast, Jean, 173 were cast on election day there at the center.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so there are potential warrant articles. As I think we realized at one of our last meetings, there were a couple of pieces that didn't make it into the budget the way that they normally would have. So the process previously had been if an item was approved and we weren't able to accomplish that goal in the year, that money then went into a capital reserve fund. Inadvertently, some monies went to the undesignated fund because we had not designated them to a capital reserve fund. So that being said, in 2019, the voters approved the pouring of a cement pad at the transfer station. It still needs to be done. We did hold off on it in 2020 due to COVID. We were trying to really tighten the belt, but we're at the point now where it was approved and now we have to figure out how we can possibly pay for it. So Anthony, you put these options together. Do you want to walk us through them?
Sure. So we'll start, as you mentioned, Melanie, with the cement pad at the transfer station. And I've outlined 3 options here. The first one, the first bullet you see there is just very straightforward to appropriate $25,000 from the undesignated fund to construct that cement pad. And currently the undesignated fund has a balance, or it did at the end of the year, December 31st, of about $3.5 million. So that's one option. Additionally, if there is a desire to build up the solid waste capital reserve, you could ask the town to appropriate $50,000 from the undesignated fund. So that would add another $25,000 to the solid waste capital reserve, which will have about $16,000 in it following the paving project in June. So that's option number 2. Or if you wanted to do both, where you designated $25,000 for the cement pad and another $50,000 for the undesignated fund, that's the third option there. So I hope I haven't overcomplicated that, but I wanted to give you guys a menu of options that you can consider if you also wanted to address building up that capital reserve to a little bit more of a comfortable level.
Yes, I'll speak on that.
Okay.
I'm in favor of the first option. Again, I don't like taking taxpayers' money and putting it in the bank. I think that's not right. Let's just do what we need to do and move on.
Now, my thought with that, Ricky, is I liked option 1, but also wanted the consideration perhaps of moving that capital reserve fund closer to the 50,000 that we usually keep in there. Bruce, am I correct on that? That one normally has 50,000 in case there's a big emergency. And if we were to look at doing that, if there's 16,126 in there, we would want to put 33,874 for a total ending balance in that account of 50,000.
But if you look at the warrant, they just spent $1,000 on recycling bags, embroidered bags, it looks like to me. So there's $1,000 kind of wasted, as far as I'm concerned. You know what? This is tax dollars money. This isn't ours. I mean, it is, but it's taxpayers. The tax is gonna go up if you keep doing this.
So Ricky, I thought the embroidered bags, we had talked about at the last meeting, and that what they were going to do was they were going to then sell the bags for $5 a piece in the hopes of recouping that money and putting extra back.
Good hopes.
I'll buy one for you, Ricky.
That's the plan.
You don't have to buy me one because I don't want one.
Oh, I will make you recycle.
I have my own dumpster and that's where the stuff goes.
Oh, I'm gonna plug my ears right now.
Yeah,
So-
the money in the undesignated fund is already in the bank, right? Correct?
Yeah,
We're not raising more money. We're just moving it from one account to another.
That's correct. And it's not even really moving it from accounts, because the capital reserve accounts and the undesignated funds, those are not separate accounts. It's how the money is accounted for within the town's checking account, if you will. So there's no, separate account for any of our capital reserves. It's just how we account for the funds that the town does have.
You got option. I said option 1. That's my motion.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor that we go with the first option, which is just to see if the town will appropriate the 25,000 from the undesignated fund to construct a cement pad for storage containers at the transfer station with any unexpended balance lapsing into the solid waste capital reserve. Is there a second on Ricky's motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? That item is up for vote. Oh, Barbara?
Sorry. So if it's just an accounting issue, does moving the $50,000 out of the undesignated fund somehow guarantee that that money will be going to the transfer station as opposed to going to some other cause? Is that the reason to do it?
So yes, Barbara, that would be the case, that those dollars would then be designated only for use at the transfer station. And one other important distinction between our capital reserves and our undesignated fund is the select board does have the authority to spend out of the capital reserve without the voters' approval. Anything that's spent from the undesignated fund has to have voter approval, which is why we want to put these articles before the voters on June the 8th.
We never have without asking the voters.
But we have in the past,
Courtesy.
in the past, the capital reserve of the transfer station has been approximately $50,000 in general. Is that correct? Yes, I see Bruce nodding. Yeah,
And we have used the capital reserve fund if we've needed it. Have we not? Without going for voter approval? Like if we didn't, we have a hopper breakdown and or something and we needed to move monies.
that's what it's there for, I think, you know, in case there's a major breakdown of some big piece of equipment that gets used on a regular basis there, then, you know, we don't have to send it out to vote to, you know, to get that fixed, to continue on. It's just, it's what, you know, it's what it's there for. It's what, to me, in my mind.
And I believe in all your departments that have capital reserves, if there's a catastrophe throughout the year, I believe you guys approved to take money out of the capital reserves, I believe. I know at the center it's happened before, and I know the fire department it happens.
Right.
Up to 15,000 without having to go for bid.
Right, without it having to go to bid.
Sure.
Jean?
I thought capital reserve was set up for specific, like we've had capital reserve accounts when we planned on buying a new fire truck, or we planned on, you know, large purchases, and we would set up a capital reserve fund to put money into it until over the years we raised enough to make that purchase. And each year that money is approved by the voters to go into that capital reserve account. I don't understand where your undesignated fund, you're saying you don't need voter approval to take from the undesignated fund?
We do need voter approval to take from the undesignated fund. If there's a capital reserve account, and our major departments do have a capital reserve account to cover for unexpected emergencies or expenditures.
Not the whole amount that's in there, though. That money's been raised by taxpayers into that capital reserve account for a specific purpose, correct?
It would be a different capital reserve. So you're absolutely correct that when we're saving for a fire station or saving for a fire truck or saving to build a town office, that's a separate capital reserve account that is identified as, you know, new town office capital reserve account. And then we request monies from the taxpayers, sometimes some from the undesignated funds, sometimes from raising taxes to fund that particular account. The other capital reserve accounts are more general. It's like your savings account and I'm saving for a new roof account. So
Okay, but sorry.
That's okay.
But when that money is raised, it's raised for that specific capital reserve account, or is it just a general to public works, or, you know, I know it's not a transfer station. I mean, each department has its own, slush fund?
Not a slush.
It is not a slush fund. And so each capital reserve does have a designated use, and some of those uses are very specific, as Melanie mentioned, buying a fire truck or building a new fire station, and some of them are more general. And so, for instance, the transfer station, the recreation department have a capital reserve that are meant for not only capital purchases, but for major unexpected repairs. So, you're exactly right, Melanie. Those capital reserves that are more general in nature serve dual purposes: capital purchases plus any sort of unexpected major expense. But again, they can only be, you can't use the recreation reserve to do something at the transfer station, as a for instance.
I'd like to call for a vote on my motion.
All right, is there any further discussion on that motion? All right, seeing none. Dan, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Ricky,
Yes.
Ernie,
No,
Barbara,
No.
Melanie? No. So we're at 3-2. I would like to suggest a second warrant article. And mine would say to see if the town will appropriate 25,000 from the undesignated fund to construct a cement pad, blah, blah, blah. And to see if the town will appropriate $33,874 from the undesignated fund to, with any, let's see. $874 to, with a following balance of the capital reserve account to be at 50,000. I'm sure there's a much better way to say that.
so it's 25,000 for it's the first part of this memo here, right?
Yes,
It's the first part. So it's the 25,000 and that pays for the cement pads.
yes,
Okay, and then it's you're leaving basically the 16,000 figure stays where it is in capital reserve right now. You're adding 33,000 and change to make that a total of 50,000 as a balance in the capital reserve.
yes.
Yeah. Now, how does that differ from? Oh, I guess it does because it's not 50,000; it's 33,000. Sure, I get it. Yeah, thank you.
All right, is there a second on that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, is there any discussion on that motion? Jean?
My question is, and I may have missed it. I don't have what you guys are looking at, but I don't understand your first selectman meeting after town meeting. You're taking money out of an undesignated fund or capital reserve fund. Why wasn't that money requested to be put in the budget if you wanted a slab at the recycling center or whatnot? Why is that? Why are you taking money the first meeting after town meeting?
I can answer that question.
Okay.
And that is, yes, we should have, Gene. We did not anticipate that the cost of the cement pad would be what it was. And had we done that, had we anticipated that, we would have asked the voters to appropriate more money for the solid waste capital reserve. And so, but we didn't. And so now we're trying to do what we can to ensure that a needed capital project occurs and that we put our capital reserve in a healthy position.
And you need that before like the June, where we couldn't put it to a vote in June.
This is for the June vote.
Yeah, we're just deciding the wording to make this a vote in June. We're not actually deciding it as a select board to spend this money right now. We're just deciding the wording.
Okay, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah, it just didn't.
Thank you, because I'm like, I might have missed something, but.
Yeah, we just didn't have our facts, ready in order to make this be on the warrant for the the last, at the town meeting voting that just happened. So going forward.
Got
this
it.
happens. We want to
Thank
get
you.
this, we'd like to get these cement pads, in this year during the construction season this year. That's why we're trying to get this approved in June so that we can do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I got confused with, we don't need voter approval for this, we need voter approval for that, and then,
I
so,
see why, and because you're not seeing this, it does say, the headline for this does say June 8 warrant articles.
thank you so much. Thank you, thank you.
So, and then I also just want to say that in 2019, the voters did approve $20,000 for these cement pads.
Yeah.
But inadvertently, instead of the warrant article, instead of us following up the following year when we tabled this project to save that money in the capital reserve account, it went to the undesignated fund because we missed designating it to the capital reserve. So the money was already approved by the voters, raised and appropriated, but it slid over to the undesignated fund instead of to the fund that we could access to pay for the project.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right.
I just make a note about the history of this in general, in that when we were putting the pre-COVID, or when COVID was on our doorstep and we were all in a quandary about whether or not we were going to, lose our shirts, there was I believe there was about $40,000 that was when we were putting the budget together that we took out of the capital reserve to just to cut back, and because we thought we had to, and as it turns out, COVID didn't affect our finances quite as much as, well, anywhere near as much as we thought it would. And so in general, we wouldn't even be having this warrant if we hadn't had to do that. We did that, to be wise then, by putting the money back into the capital reserve so that there is, in general, a $50,000 balance thereabouts. It'll deter us from having to do this for these small items in general, a $10,000 or $20,000 type of repair at the transfer station.
All right. Is there any more
I call for the
discussion on
vote.
the motion? That's where I'm going.
I like it.
All right. Seeing none. Barbara, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Dan? I couldn't hear you.
No,
No. Ricky?
Oh,
Ernie?
Yes.
Melanie? Yes. All right, 3, 4, 2 against. That's how that warrant article will read. All right, and then next up, to see if the town will appropriate $30,000 from the Facilities and Cemetery Truck Replacement Reserve and appropriate up to $45,000 from the undesignated fund for a total sum not to exceed $75,000 to purchase a 1-ton truck to replace the current 2008 model. Gene, this is another one that slid through the cracks. So I'll take a motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
Moved and seconded by Barbara. Okay, that one is open for discussion.
So Melanie, today, Mary suggested that because we do have the $30,000 in the capital reserve for the facility and cemetery truck, that we may not even need to mention that in the warrant article, that we could have a warrant article that reads as simply as to see if the town will vote to appropriate the lapsed amount of $45,000 from the undesignated fund for the purchase of a facility maintenance truck not purchased in 2020 due to COVID-19.
All right, read that one to me again.
Certainly, yeah, I'm probably a little slower here. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the lapsed amount of $45,000 from the undesignated fund for the purchase of a facility maintenance truck not purchased in 2020 due to COVID-19. So again, the thinking behind that is because the board does have the authority to spend out of a capital reserve, that you may want, unless you want to lay everything out for the voters, you may want to just ask them to consider moving the balance that's needed, the $45,000 from the undesignated fund for the purchase of the truck.
I like that language just because it's cleaner. And anybody who's ever bought a 1-ton truck knows you can't buy one for 45,000. And they're gonna wonder where the rest of the money's coming from. But I'm only one person. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that second option?
I like it.
Jean?
Yes. So like, I don't have the agenda in front of me, but is that what you're going through right now? So this one is again
Going
to
to
be voted on?
Yeah.
That it's going to be voted on in June?
Yeah.
And people will say yes or no, but there wasn't a capital reserve fund set up to buy this truck to begin with?
So there was, Gene, this is another one that the same thing happened like the cement pad. What happened in 2020 is normally the monies were appropriated. They carried forward. And what happens is you have to continue to carry those forward to the capital reserve. We missed it in 2020 and it slid back to the undesignated fund. So we're requesting to pull those lapsed funds back out for the purpose that the voters had approved.
Is that typical that if you set up something in a capital reserve, that it doesn't stay with the capital reserve until that purchase is made? I mean, I've never known a capital reserve account to lose money into the undesignated fund because that money is designated. And that's why it's in the capital reserve.
It did not move from the capital reserve to the undesignated fund. This purchase was going to be a combination of the money that was in the capital reserve plus money from the undesignated fund to keep from raising and appropriating new taxes. And so,
okay, but I think we're
let me-
talking. Sorry.
Yeah, let me finish, Gene.
Yeah.
So you are welcome to blame the new town manager on this, because a valuable lesson that I've learned this year is whenever we appropriate money for capital projects, we need to make sure that the warrant article states that any unspent monies go back into that capital reserve. Otherwise, they do lapse into the undesignated fund. And if something unforeseen happens, then we don't have ready access to that money.
Okay, so there was a capital reserve specifically, not the not slush fund, but an actual capital reserve for this truck that you want to buy?
30,000.
Correct, but it did not have the full amount of the purchase in it. So a 1-ton truck cost approximately $75,000. We only have $30,000 in the capital reserve.
Okay, and I'm assuming you put this out to bid and all of that, and you know that.
Oh yeah.
That we're going to be looking for the absolute best price, and
of course,
you know, what are we doing with the old truck?
We will determine what we're going to do with that as part of the purchase of the new truck.
So it may be traded.
It may be.
It may be sold separately.
Right.
Or it might be put to bid.
Yes, we would accept bids if we're going to sell it as opposed to trade it in.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, is there any more discussion on that? All right, seeing none. Dan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Barbara? Barbara?
Yes.
Okay, 5 yeses, no nos. All right, and then we have following a repeal of a perpetuity article in 2020, we failed to include the following article on the warrant. This will be on the warrant annually moving forward to see if the town will vote pursuant to 36 MRSA Section 506 to authorize the tax collector to accept prepayment of property taxes prior to the delivery of the tax commitment to the tax collector by the assessors without payment of interest. Take a motion on that.
Make a motion, we approve that warrant article.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? Seeing none. Ricky?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes,
And 5 yeses.
So Melanie, there is one other item related to this that we need you guys to decide on tonight, because Mary has to post this no later than 2 days from now. And that is what our election hours are going to be. And as we discussed previously, on a Saturday, it may not make much of a difference. It may not make a lot of sense to have voting until 8 o'clock at night. This election will occur on a Tuesday. But I have a suggestion about one way that we might be able to help voters before they go to work and after they get off work. And that is, instead of having voting hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., what if we had voting hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.? That way people could vote on their way to work that Tuesday morning, or they could come after work and vote after 5 o'clock. And so if you guys, we need you to designate what the voting hours are going to be. But if you want 7 to 7 voting hours, that's something we need to consider tonight.
What is the regular hours the school's gonna do? The school's vote, we're just tagging on with it, correct?
Well, I think we're the ones running the election, correct, Mary?
Right, we're the ones running the election, yeah, and we can pretty much set our hours.
But what are the hours that the rest of the towns, let me put it this way, what's the hours the rest of the town's gonna do?
Probably Oakland is doing 8 to 8, Sydney's probably doing 8 to 8, and I do not know if Rome will have shortened hours.
And China, because China weighs in on this one too.
Okay, China, yeah,
My suggestion is if we always run 8 to 8, then we go 8 to 8.
okay.
I'll second that.
So One
still
more-
allows, yeah, I agree. I mean, it still allows people to vote after work if they, I mean,
So I have one more item that I need to have. I need to have the board motion to put those 3 articles forward to the special referendum election for June 8th. So I need just a complete motion.
I will
Make that motion.
I will second it. What Mary said.
Yes, right, word for word.
Right. Make a motion that we put these 3 warrant articles forward to the special election on June 8th.
Thank you.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Seeing,
Melanie,
oh, Jean,
sorry, just a quick thing about the hours. I mean, we just talked about that we needed consistency in voting. And I think that, when you say change the hours, are you saying from here forward or just for this particular vote?
I think the question was whether or not it would be these particular hours just reference this particular election.
Oh, I think that would be very confusing,
Right.
just
Right.
my opinion.
That's why well, if the vote goes that way, then we'll stay with that. All right, Ricky? Yes. Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Ernie?
yes.
All right, 5 yeses. The hours are 8 to 8. All right, next up, we have the discussion and consideration of the road commissioner job description and.
Hang on, did we vote on Mary's motion? We did, okay. To move the 3 articles. And just one quick thing before we leave here, were we supposed to vote on approving the low bid of 24,915 for Bono and Son to do the cement pad?
So that's not a critical thing that we have to address tonight, but it is something that we may want to consider as we approach the election, maybe approving the low bid contingent on voter approval. That way Bono could start straight away immediately after the election.
Well, could we do that now, or?
You could do that now.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't we do that now? I'll make the motion, we vote on that now. We approve the low bid of 24,915 submitted by Bono and Son for the cement pad, contingent upon voter approval June 8th.
I'll second that. Is there any discussion on that?
I have a question. No, sorry. When was the bid made?
March.
March, like last month, or March a year ago?
Was it maybe February?
Yeah, it was, I don't recall, Gene, but it was here within the last few months.
Okay, I know that, construction costs have been going through the roof and just didn't know, if it was too far along ago that it would impact it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, we've spoken with Mr. Bono and he's comfortable with this bid.
Perfect.
All right, Ricky.
I'm gonna vote no, because I don't think we ought to be voting on something we haven't got the money for.
It does say contingent upon approval at the June 8 election.
I understand that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, Ricky says no. Dan?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses, 1 no. All right, next up, we have the discussion and consideration of the road commissioner job description. And I will open that item I'll open that item. Take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
There a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded, that item is open. So we have here, because the road commissioner's post is transitioning to an appointed position, MMA suggests that we post the position and accept applications. To facilitate that, we've crafted an attached job description, which combines elements of an MMA template and a job description drafted in 2009. If the board approves this description, we'll accept applications for 2 weeks. The roads committee will convene to interview the applicants and they'll make a recommendation to the select board for an appointment at the May 4th meeting. In the meantime, MMA also endorsed the notion of appointing the town manager to serve as the interim road commissioner. In that regard, Anthony says he would work cooperatively with Jason Stevens, who is our current road commissioner, or was prior to town meeting, to ensure there's no interruption in needed maintenance. So did everyone have a chance to review the road commissioner description?
Yeah, I did, Melanie, and I've got substantial number of changes I'd like to go forward.
Okay.
I did have Anthony send out the actual main statute description of the road commissioner's powers and duties. And what I would like to see is up at the top of, we'll start right at the top of the road commissioner's worksheet, job description. The very first small paragraph would stay, except for the very bottom, the last line that says work directly with the town manager. Because the state statute says it works with the select board. And then I would like to see that next paragraph that's on the job description here, move down under the responsibilities and the actual state statute showing what the road commissioner's duties are inserted there. That way we're following main statute.
Okay.
All right, and then if we flip over to the next page, I noticed that the tree warden has been added into this, and I'm just wondering why we decided to put that with the road commissioner and not the maintenance supervisor for the town who takes care of the plowing and everything else. Just out of curiosity. We know why that was added.
Well, I think the reason was, Dan, is partly because Morris Childs used to act as the tree warden. So if there was a problematic tree in town, Morris was contacted, and then he would pick someone to take the tree down if need be, but he would go out and assess the situation. Then we actually had a tree committee and an actual tree warden. So some of those came back out of Morris's responsibilities, but we no longer have a tree committee. So we didn't have anyone specific designated to review that.
Okay, and that's fine. I just didn't know why we had it one or the other, one way or the other.
Could be that, just a note, it could be that quite often trees that need to be cut have posed some danger to town roads. And
yeah,
that's why they're connected somehow, I think.
All right. And then down at the bottom, when we get into the requirements of work, I think there should be about 4 more bullet points. One, this is the only description I saw that went through that didn't say must pass required background check and have a clean and valid driver's license. And all of our other ones, all the other job descriptions say that. Another bullet point I think that needs to be added is must respond during severe weather conditions to clear trees or other traffic obstructions or cordon them off. I didn't see anything in there talking about if the town should require any certifications such as traffic safety or flagging. So I think there should be something in there that any certifications the town requires, they would be required to obtain. And the last thing that I didn't see was if we have a road commissioner that uses their own equipment, that they are required to have liability insurance on their equipment for anything they use in contracting with the town. Kind of what I had.
Okay.
That all sounds good. Can I just, for clarification, Dan, the first point you made was in the first paragraph. That was, could you just reiterate that? It was
which part? The very top that says the position is responsible for the administrative, supervisory, and technical work.
Yeah.
Basically, the only thing changed on that is the very last few words. It says it's appointed annually by the select persons and works directly for the town manager. But if you look at the state statute, it says the road commissioner, under the direction of the majority of the selectmen, shall have charge of repairs in the highway. It doesn't, anything in the statute, it doesn't say anything about town manager. It mentions selectmen 3 or 4 times.
Sure. Okay.
It's a little different from a normal hired position. A road commissioner has a little more legal authority, and they basically are appointed directly by the select board and have to answer to the select board.
I like that in general. I like that idea. Just my point would be, I guess, if we have these meetings twice a month, but the town manager has management oversight of all town employees for their daily tasks. If there was a sudden storm, an ice storm, whatever that came up where the road commissioner needed to be dispatched to take care of something, wouldn't the town manager be directing him to do that, or
the town manager would probably be directing to do it, but the town manager is supposed to contact at least 3 of the selectmen.
Sure. Okay. Well, as long as there's a way to do that, I just didn't want to get into a position where, say, a road commissioner someday maybe didn't get along with the town manager and only did, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to make
Yeah,
it,
and like I said, I'm just reading it from the statute that
Sure.
Anthony sent you. If you read the
Sure.
statute,
Yeah.
there's certain positions, code enforcement officer, road commissioner, that are strictly overseen mostly by the board, other than the town manager basically talking to them about day-to-day operations.
sure.
But because they have more, those positions have more authority than, say, the transfer
Sure.
station.
I just didn't want to limit too much the town manager to manage the town, so to speak.
So that's just it. There's, like I said, there's certain things that,
Yep.
that's the way it's set up.
I hear you. Thanks.
Hey, Melanie, can I ask Jason if he's all set with that?
Yeah.
Jason, you in there? You're muted,
On
so you
mute.
gotta unmute. Hey, you gotta unmute yourself.
There I am.
Are you all set with that?
Yeah, I'd read through it and the changes said, I have no problems with them.
Pretty much what you do anyways.
Yeah, so, background, check, I'm all good with that. And yeah, insurance, Morris always made me have all the insurances and I still have it. So
Yep.
town has record of it. So yeah, I'm all good with it.
All right, thank you.
Good.
Go along with the changes that Dan made. I'll second that if that's what you're looking for.
Yes. Any more discussion? Jack?
No, I'm on the road committee, so I do have an interest in this, and I've read the article, the draft, and the draft is good as far as it goes. There are a couple of things, some have already been mentioned. I won't get into wordsmithing or any detail, but I will say a few things. Culverts. I think the town has either a culvert ordinance or it's part of the road ordinance. And there needs to be a stronger process of identifying where a culvert is going to be put in and having the design done before it's actually done by somebody. I understand that one has been put in recently, one I've heard of that's been put in recently that has not gone through the approval process. It's there, and the town will live with it presumably. But that process needs to be strengthened, and there needs to be a process by which the fee is collected and assured, and the thing is done right. It's designed right and it's done right to start with, under the supervision of the road commissioner, in my opinion.
Well, Jack, can I follow up with that?
Yes.
It's been a long time since I've had to put in a culvert, but is the process still that the landowner pays for the materials, pays for the installation of the culvert, but then the town is then responsible for the maintenance of the culvert past that point?
I'm not sure exactly what that process is, but it has to be initiated, in my opinion, before the culvert is put in, before it's designed and put in. And it should be design approved by an official, presumably the road commissioner.
Jason's shaking his head, so I'm saying yes.
Huh?
Right, Jason?
Yeah, that's why they do a driveway permit. So I go look at the site and then tell them what they need to do, and then I go check and make sure they do it.
Well, as long as that's done, and as long as an application is submitted and the fee paid, that's the way it should work.
Right.
I'm not sure that it always works that way.
You don't put them in though, right, Jason, for them? They have to, I mean, you might do it, but you don't do it as a town employee doing it, correct?
We don't pay for it. No, we don't.
Right.
Right. So,
Just like the state does now. The state doesn't replace the culverts. One of us contractors got them.
Okay, my next point was emergencies. Dan has already covered that. That's really a 24/7 responsibility, either by the road commissioner or under the guidance of the road commissioner. I've been there. I've come home late at night from travel and a snowstorm, and there's been a tree across the road, and I had the devil's own time to move it. Next morning, it was gone. And I didn't make any calls, but somebody took care of it. But emergencies are part of the job. Reviewing of major contractor invoices, making sure that the job that was paid for is to be paid for was actually done right according to the specifications before it's paid. There may be some reference to that in the document. Storage of town equipment. There is some town equipment, signage and what have you. I don't know if the road commissioner still has a shipping container with town equipment in it or not. But if the road commissioner is working with any town equipment, that should be a mention in here, I think. And then there should be a system, if there's not already, of keeping the records of the roads in a consistent manner at the town office. The road commissioner can have his own working papers and his own working documents during and before actual projects, but ultimately there should be a record road by road in the town office, in my opinion. Those are the things that I wanted to mention. The last thing, ability to establish and maintain effective relationships. I would add there the main DOT, because they have a local road center that can be very helpful, and also with the contractors and the contracting community, because that's a constant communication that's required, and to have a good feeling of who's the best in the business to do the work at hand. Thank you.
Thanks for your input, Jack. Does anyone else have anything? All right. Anthony, is it possible that you could rework this, add in some of these other pieces, and then have us review it again before we sign off on that piece? Or is it pertinent that we do it tonight so that we can put the post the job?
Well, I think that's completely the board's call as far as sort of how you want to order things. You know, it strikes me that the job description that has been, you know, proposed tonight, and then the changes that Dan has made. I just sent Dan a text. Dan, if you'll send me that verbiage on that, I'll add that in there tomorrow. And so I think at that point, the job description will be substantially complete. And it's just a matter of how quickly do you want to get a road commissioner appointed. If it's quicker rather than later, then, you know, we might go ahead and just use this substantially complete job description, and you guys can give it final approval on April the 20th. If you want the job description completely done, then, you know, we'll have this on the agenda April 20th, and then we can post the job afterwards.
Let's get it complete so it's on there for April 20th. No sense in doing something that's not right, and then we'll come back and kick ourselves for not doing it right, so.
Right. So I feel like there's enough substantial changes there. Jason, are you-
What I'll do, Anthony, I'll stop over first thing tomorrow morning on my way into the legislature.
That sounds good. And then Jack, maybe if you can send me your changes as well, so I can incorporate those.
Yeah, that would be good. All right, so I will take a motion to table this agenda item to the April 20th meeting, where we will then finalize the job description for the road commissioner. Mary?
Hang on, yep.
So, yeah, you still just need to make a motion to appoint Anthony as the interim so we can get him sworn in as road commissioner officially.
Okay.
Okay.
So so the motion still stands to table the road commissioner job description for the April 20th meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any more discussion on that? All right, seeing none. Barbara? Ricky?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. That one is tabled. Second, I'll take a motion.
I've got a question. Instead of temporarily making Anthony the interim, why don't we make Jason the interim one? Since he was already the road commissioner. That way it doesn't have to go through two people.
That's fine with me.
It's just, it's an interim position.
Okay, so when we don't have to, I didn't talk to MMA about that.
Well, I mean, it's just appointing somebody. I mean, it doesn't matter who you appoint as long as they're qualified.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay, because the point of doing it this way was that it did matter who we appointed if it was an appointed position. We had to follow the process.
We will in a couple weeks.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're appointing Anthony, it's no different than appointing Jason. Still appointing somebody who hasn't gone through the process, the employment process. You're just appointing somebody who's to take a position.
Sure.
Sure, put the fly in the ointment, Dan.
Well, it just doesn't make sense to me to do, have to appoint somebody to have them turn around and send somebody else to do the job.
I'll
Right.
make that, we do that, if that will help.
All right, is there a second?
Second. I second.
I'm gonna guess no further discussion.
As long as Jason's okay with it.
He's
He
like,
is looking at-
whatever.
He said he's going to camp and he doesn't care, so.
He's like, you better hope there's no emergency.
I'm gonna do the same job tomorrow as I did today, so
There we go.
it doesn't make a difference.
All right, well, all those in favor? Ricky, Barbara, Dan, Ernie, Melanie.
Yeah.
All right, and that would be in favor of appointing Jason as the interim town manager.
Sure. No,
Road
town
commissioner.
road commissioner.
I might have a problem with that, town manager.
You got a couple of jobs going on.
Hey, Anthony, you got a new job, you're road commissioner now.
I'll pass.
Back off, Jason.
Yeah.
Oh, good catch, guys. All right, next up, we have the warrant. Anthony, if you'll read that, Heather.
Yes, ma'am. This is warrant. Oops, hold on here. Oh, here we go. Warrant number 38 in the amount of $641,267.56.
I'll make that motion.
There's a
Second.
second. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the warrant?
I had a couple, but I forgot now.
All right. I didn't highlight anything, so go me.
Oh, there was a couple that I did and I can't remember what it was. Doesn't matter. Wasn't
I
that-
bet one of them was those recycling bags.
One of them was. The
I know.
second one, what was the second one? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Fine.
All right. If there's no more discussion, Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses, no nos.
Is this where we're gonna do the second one for the fire truck or what?
Yes, sir. I was just about to point that out. Thank you. Yeah, we want that fire truck. So this is warrant number 40, and this is for the purchase of the new tanker truck in the amount of $240,600.
Make that motion.
Second,
Second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
5 yeses. All right, next up, we have the town manager report.
Yeah, I did not do a written report, but I do have 2 things I want to report to you guys verbally. And one is just an update from our first responder memorial group. They had a really productive meeting last month, and they have narrowed down a location to 2 choices. They're not ready to reveal those publicly yet, but they have narrowed it down to 2 choices. And they're also looking at 2 potential designs, one of glass, like it's the EMS memorial down near the state capitol, and the other would be a granite structure. Their goal is to keep it simple, so there won't be any names of people or organizations on it, maybe a line of 2 or text. They have invited 2 memorial companies, one that deals in glass and one that deals in granite, to present some ideas to them later this month. And here's a direct quote from Matt Stocco. He says, ultimately, our goal is to present to the select board some choices with our recommendation from among those choices. So they are making progress, and I really like the fact that they are dreaming big. They want to start big, and then they'll worry about, the funding and the price tag at some later point. So that's number 1. And then number 2, we are obviously in need of a code enforcement officer. We have had a candidate who did apply, and I talked with him for about 2 hours on the phone yesterday. And so now we need to talk about the hiring process, what you would like that to consist of, and what the steps would be. I had a chance to chat with Dan earlier, and he suggested a group interview. And if you guys are amenable to that, then I would suggest that group consists of the town clerk, because our code enforcement officer works closely with the clerks, the planning board chair, myself, and then potentially one of you guys, if one of you guys would like to volunteer to sit in on that interview. But what's your pleasure? What would you like the process to consist of?
I'd like to see somebody from the select board be part of that committee. It's for the first time we've hired a new code enforcement officer in 30 years.
I would probably volunteer to do that. I probably work
Ricky?
closest around, I work with them more than anybody else on the board, so it'd be kind of nice to see what's up there.
Okay, Jean?
When you say that you have someone that's interested, was this a job that was put out? I mean, did we advertise we were looking for a code enforcement officer?
We did. This applicant saw our advertisement on the website of the Maine Municipal Association, which is where a lot of municipal employees go to search for jobs.
How long was that ad up?
I put it up, I believe, the day after I received Mr. Fuller's resignation.
And you had a 1-week time period or 2-week time period?
The ad has not been taken down. The ad is still up.
Okay. And is this something that we're looking at combining with Rome? Are we talking full time? I mean, I'm curious as to what that process is going to be.
I think Jean, we'll figure the process out.
Yeah, this is, this candidate has no ties to the town of Rome.
Okay, but I mean, sorry, Melanie, but how do you figure out that process when someone is being interviewed for that job? I mean, I would think that you would know what you're hiring for and what hours you're hiring for. I mean, what did you advertise for? Did you advertise full-time?
No, we did not advertise a full-time position.
What did you advertise?
We are budgeted for 25 hours a week, and that's what we advertised.
Are we sharing any cost with another community?
No.
So it would be.
Well, I say that, Jean, if we were to hire this candidate, then no, we would not be sharing the cost with any other community.
Okay. So who is the candidate that you're interviewing?
I'm not going to say.
Oh, just in case he doesn't get, just in case. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank
It
you.
would be inappropriate to talk about that.
Okay, that was, I mean, that was my concern. I had heard rumors that we were looking for a full-time code enforcement officer to be split with other communities and that would split all of that. But if that's not happening and we're keeping things as the code enforcement officer, 25 hours a week or whatever it was, perfect.
I got a couple questions.
Okay.
Did we interview, or did we post it internally any place? I think our policy said we have to.
I posted it on the town's website.
Okay. Can't even find it, so that's good. The other thing is, was there any attempt at all to try to keep Gary?
Rick, I'd rather not talk about personnel matters in an open forum.
Then good, we'll do it in executive session. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
One question I've got is, before posting it, did the board okay posting the job? Because I don't remember voting on posting the job at this point yet.
No, the board did not. I don't know that since I've been here, Dan, that the board has voted on posting any of our job openings.
And code enforcement isn't a normal job.
I will say that I think because Mr. Fuller gave us 2 weeks notice, I was doing my best to try to get someone in the job as quickly as possible. And I did think I talked to each of the board members and told them that part of how I was going to be responding was going to be posting the job immediately on the MMA website and on the town's website.
Okay, well, just for the record, I'm going to read the state statute for MRS Title 30-A, Chapter 123, subsection 1. Another subsection 2601-A, appointment of code enforcement officers. Municipal officers may appoint code enforcement officers trained and certified in accordance with section 4451 to serve for a fixed term of 1 or more years. And it does talk about removing a code enforcement officer, but that really doesn't pertain.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, you know, when we hire someone or offer a job to someone, then the select board will make that appointment. You know, it would have been on the list tonight if not faced with current circumstances.
Bruce?
So I guess my question is, what do we do for permits and inspections until then?
Good question, Bruce. I had a discussion last week and again today with Mr. Fuller, and he's being very gracious in agreeing to help us out in the interim and do our plumbing inspections and issue simple building permits. He plans on coming by the town office and seeing what we've got to date.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Gary's like, I figured out how to unmute myself, Melanie. All right, so seeing that we're at the end of the town manager's report, we have an executive session scheduled for this evening. So I would like to take a 5-minute break, exit the select board meeting, and then enter into the executive session at that point. Is everyone okay with a 5-minute break?
Yeah, can I ask another question or two before we go into that?
Sure.
Maybe you don't want to tell me this unless we go in executive session. Oops. But why do we have an attorney present every time we're dealing with Mr. Grant over there?
We do not. The vast majority of the meetings that the planning board has conducted, there has not been an attorney present. But when we came down to crafting the findings of fact, I am just supposing that however the case turns out, that there may be litigation that ensues. And so we want to make sure that those findings of fact will stand up in a court of law.
So I understand that the attorneys writing the permit?
The attorney is writing the permit?
Yes.
No. So the attorney is writing the findings of fact, which is the legal document that states if the permit is being issued step by step. I mean, there's a whole long list of conditions, as you can imagine, Rick, that have to be met. And whether or not the application meets those conditions with a little bit of detail. If it doesn't, why it doesn't. And so it is a legal document that 99 times out of 100 will not need the help of an attorney, but in a special case that we are concerned that may end up in litigation, I think it makes good sense to have an attorney draft that, because eventually it will become a point of contention in a court of law.
Kind of looks like, it kind of looks like he's being singled out.
No, sir. I talked to Mr. Grant. I talked to Mr. Grant, and he's actually appreciative of the fact that Mike Hodgins is helping out on this matter.
Okay, well, that's not what I've been told by the engineer. We've never seen it's done this way. So I'm a little concerned that we may be in litigation because it looks like we're singling out somebody. And that's not the way we do business in the town of Belgrade.
So Rick, all I can tell you is I spoke personally with Sean Grant yesterday. He was in my office.
He called me Friday.
Okay, but he was in my office yesterday, and Mr. Grant said that we talked about Mr. Hodgins' involvement in this, and I said, I want to make sure that this is completely buttoned up. And he said, I really appreciate that.
Okay, let's just see where it goes. Thank you.
All right, so make a motion, we take a 5-minute break.
So be it.
All right, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, see you guys in 5.